After President Trump's tough talk yesterday, the summit with Kim Jong-un may be back on.
We're talking to them now. They very much want to do it. We'd like to do it. We're going to see what happens.
The North Koreans played a hand. They tried to behave as if they didn't want the summit, and the president called their bluff.
President Trump continuing to press the issue of whether the government under the Obama administration was spying on his presidential campaign.
What happened here was an abomination to the republic, and the media is covering it up.
Not just Fox, where they are essentially delivering propaganda. We need more people to speak up and speak out, and we need more outlets.
You don't give up. You don't give in. You don't back down. And you never surrender. God bless America. And anchors away.
You better be ready when the sun goes down. That's when country comes to town.
Yep. You know, you wanted it. We're delivering it. There's a bona fide, what is this, a barbecue festival on the plaza?
It is the Fox and Friends special barbecue fest out on the plaza. No, Pete, this is not just for you. We've actually invited other people to help eat all of this. So barbecue joints from all across the country have come this morning to show us their greatest stuff. Pete, you already had the meat sweats. I know you're so excited this morning.
Pete didn't even wear a belt in anticipation of eating so much.
I actually forgot my belt this morning, so I'm not going to need to readjust it after 4 hours of this program. I really didn't wear a belt. I forgot. Yeah. And it's a perfect day to do it.
Smart. But it is Fleet Week, so if you are in the area and you are up and you're watching the show and you smell a little barbecue nearby, come over to our plaza. We will feed you this morning. It's going to be a good day.
I walked by this morning. You know Field of Dreams when they say, is this heaven? No, it's Iowa. Like, is this heaven? No, it's the plaza this morning.
This is my job. This is what we get to do for a living.
It is obviously, we're kicking off summer. And we're also Memorial Day is coming up on Monday, a very special day.
Very, very important day. You know, this weekend is all about getting your barbecue fired up, but also remembering those that have paid the ultimate sacrifice in the freedom of this nation. And this is a time that we say we respect you, we thank you, and we recognize you.
Now, Griff, you've sacrificed a lot for us on this show, too. And you're back. And you're looking good. How are you feeling?
Griff.
We are back. It was exactly a month ago today when we were doing a little segment with some amazing dogs.
Yeah.
Not a little segment. That was a pretty big segment where Griff decides to jump in the pool to do what the dogs were doing. Gets his shoulder dislocated in this moment. Also, my Frisbee toss was terrible, so I'm partly to blame for that.
Now, the Griff of 5 years ago would have actually made that shallow dive and not caught here. If you look here, that was it, and I caught it, and I put my arms up. I was pulling off some good TV. The show must go on, but look on the left, my arm won't go down. That's because we dislocated it, but thanks to Dr. Siegel, Dr. Jez Rawi at New York Langone, and everyone else, Dr. Gotlin, the sling is gone.
Oh, it's gone.
Goodbye.
Almost.
We have shed the sling. But there's also some real news.
Yeah, we're thrilled to have you on today. Let's get right to that news this morning, to a Fox News alert. President Trump and Kim Jong-un's historic meeting back on the negotiating table.
The leaders possibly reviving the canceled summit on its original date, June 12th in Singapore.
Our own Jillian Turner is live in Washington, D.C. with the latest this morning. Jillian, good morning.
Good morning, guys. You were right. Planning for the Trump-Kim summit is back on track. Last night, just hours after President Trump publicly pulled out of the June 12th face-to-face meeting, the North Koreans brought their aggression to a screeching halt and decided to re-engage with the United States government. President Trump tweeted out a message of optimism. We are having very productive talks with North Korea about reinstating the summit, which, if it does happen, will likely remain in Singapore on the same date, June 12th, and if necessary, will be extended beyond that date. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo said that over the past several days, the U.S. had tried to connect with the regime to resume planning for the summit, but each time they called, no one was home. Now, the White House is in full-on contingency planning mode. They're gaming out all the various scenarios that could unfold over the coming days.
As the president said this morning, certainly we'd like to have a meeting, but the president's not just looking to have a meeting. He's not looking for just a cheap political stunt. He wants to get something that's a long-lasting and actual real solution. We're always going to be prepared, and if the meeting takes place on June 12th, we'll be ready. If it takes place on July 12th, we'll be ready, and we're going to do whatever is necessary to prepare for that on that front.
But national security experts say there's a lot of hope, but not much chance. They caution President Trump will have to overcome some major obstacles if he really still hopes to ultimately strike a deal with Kim Jong-un. They caution no matter how positive Team Trump may sound, the road to a nuclear deal is steep and it's paved with potholes. This week was a stark reminder, guys, that 7 decades of mistrust really underwrite the U.S.-North Korea relationship on both sides.
Yeah,
that's
well
right.
said. Jillian, thank you so much.
Thanks, Jillian.
Not to say, though, that this meeting still can't happen. When you hear the president speak, you can hear it in his tone. He wants this to take place. These things take time. It is an incredibly complicated. So I think people should know that this could still possibly happen. But you have to remember, when it comes to Kim Jong-un and President Trump, they have to have the same understanding of what they're meeting about.
Yes.
What does it mean to denuclearize that region and that country, right? They both have to be on the same place. You remember back in the Reagan years, that wasn't always the case, meeting with Gorbachev. And at one point, Reagan walked away from that meeting. And he went there and decided to leave. You don't want to get to that place.
Well, but Trump also walked away. That letter, our weapons are so massive and powerful, we don't want to use them. The meeting is canceled. North Korea came scrambling back to the table. Hey, no, we do want this to happen. I think a brilliant move to keep some momentum going. You can't allow North Korea to keep doing what they've done in the past and come to the table and then give you nothing. You've got to change the calculus, and hopefully this is part of it.
Yeah, pay attention, by the way, to South Korea. They are certainly got a lot of skin in the game, and they are very optimistic about what could happen. But I want to get also to now, it is Memorial Day weekend, and the president, in advance of that, speaking at the commencement of the U.S. Naval Academy to those cadets. It was really quite a remarkable commencement speech. Take a listen to a little bit of what we got.
Each of you enters service at a truly exciting time for our country. For we are witnessing the great reawakening of the American spirit and of American might. Yes, America is back. I was given an option. I could make this commencement address, which is a great honor for me, and immediately leave and wave goodbye. Or I could stay for hours and shake hands with 1,100 and something. What should I do? What should I do? I'll stay.
And he did just that. I think we have, as we talk here, we have a time lapse of all over 1,000 hands that the president.
The question is, who got the handshake? I mean, if you don't get in line in time, do you miss it?
No, I think all of the grads.
It's incredible.
It's pretty
he
cool.
stayed and he shook every single hand. You know this, Pete. I mean, that is the message that you want to hear. If you are devoting your life to fight for this nation, I think about my 2 brothers who went to Naval Academy. You want to hear that your country is the strongest on earth, and that if you have to go out there and fight, you fight and you win.
Yes, absolutely. Amen. And I think, and this speech was the basics, and it's what you want to hear from, as you said, your commander-in-chief. His presidency is as much a cultural presidency as it is a policy presidency. He talks about naked patriotism. He said, just don't be afraid. Stand for that anthem. Love the pledge. In God we trust. These are things that America's always stood for. They should unite us. Patriotism, it's okay to talk about it. It's almost like he's made it cool again. And it's something that in our schools, in our churches, in our institutions, we should be reinforcing and not being afraid to talk about.
It's also an interesting time with Secretary Mattis. You know, the leaders of this administration, not just the president, have really inspired some of the young grads at the academies. One family friend that's graduating here at the Naval Academy is fired up because they understand the stakes that the world is facing. And the commander-in-chief obviously making that point. By the way, someone who probably didn't appreciate that speech, former Secretary Hillary Clinton, who also had a little bit of graduation commencement. She was back at Radcliffe yesterday. Harvard, excuse me. Yes. For an Ole Miss grad, I have to make sure I get it correct.
She was receiving an award there yesterday, and as you can imagine, she had some harsh words about our democracy and even about Fox News. Take a listen.
People who have a very particular point of view, an ideology, or a commercial perspective to try to sell, have really dominated the TV market. It's not just Fox, it's now Sinclair, where they are essentially delivering propaganda. So we need more people to speak up and speak out, and we need more outlets. We need more sources of reliable information. Right now, we are living through a crisis in our democracy. There certainly are not tanks in the street, but what's happening today goes to the heart of who we are as a nation. And I say this not as a Democrat who lost an election, but as an American afraid of losing a country.
So that's what we need. We need more outlets to get news because we don't have enough of them.
She went on to say, go buy your local newspaper. This is another part of her speech. She said, attempting to erase the lines between fact and fiction, truth and alternative reality is a core feature of authoritarianism, which is what they always kind of accuse the president of. So the goal is to make us question logic and reason and sow mistrust toward exactly the people I think we need to rely on. This is who she thinks we need to rely on. Our leaders, meaning politicians, the press, all those journalists, experts.
He looks at me.
It's always experts. Sorry, Griff. It's always experts that are going to save the day. And, of course, ultimately ourselves, meaning Hillary. If you just elected me, everything would be fine.
I love that she wants more outlets of information, as if we don't have enough outlets of information.
It's so
from
confusing
your phone
as it is.
to the cable TV. But
yeah.
There are also some headlines out here, so let's get this day going.
We got a busy morning, 3 more hours, almost 4 hours.
If you live within like 2 hours from here, drive here.
Yeah, come get some barbecue. All right, I want to bring you some headlines we are following closely this morning. Disgraced Hollywood producer Harvey Weinstein is out on bail. Weinstein posting $1 million after turning himself into the police. He is being charged with rape and sexual abuse. He now must wear a GPS device. Dozens of women have accused him of sexual crimes. Weinstein denies the accusations but faces more than 37 years in prison. He must decide by Wednesday whether he will testify. And a teacher being hailed a hero for tackling a school shooter inside his Indiana classroom, saving countless lives. This man, Jason Seaman, reportedly shot 3 times as he swatted the firearm out of the gunman's hand at Noblesville West Middle School. Watch this.
Really grateful for him to be there, because without him, I'm not sure if all of us would have made it.
Wow, a bullet striking 13-year-old Ella Whistler just moments before Seaman's fearless takedown in a 7th grade science room. The teen is now in stable condition. The 29-year-old teacher is also recovering and in good condition. Seaman, a husband and father of 2 children, also coaches football at that school. The unidentified gunman is now in custody. His motive still remains unclear. Horrible. And President Trump keeping yet another campaign promise. Take a listen.
We need to drain the swamp, and we're going to do it, and we are doing it. Drain the swamp.
The commander-in-chief signing 3 orders rolling back civil service protections, making it easier to fire poor-performing federal workers. White House officials say the president is honoring his pledge to cut red tape and promote a more efficient government. A lot of people saying it is about time.
That is my favorite story of the day. Honestly.
Is it?
The moves they're taking. Yeah, government unions have had a grip on the federal bureaucracy forever. These guys should be able to be fired just like we could be. Yeah. Anybody could be, and we're finally making some of those changes. But don't fire Griff. He's great. All right. I don't have any power, so they're just saying that. All right, well, the president pulls out of the North Korea summit, and the media, they seem giddy.
You have a little whiplash here, summit whiplash, on, off, back on.
It's been chaos.
There goes that Nobel Peace Prize. He was. There you go. There you go.
Well, is the left rooting for our president's failure?
Plus, Black Lives Matter taking aim at the NFL's new anthem policy, comparing the league to slavery. Is that really fair? We'll debate it coming up.
You just fade away. Don't you know I'm still standing better than I ever did? Looking like a true survivor, feeling like a little kid.
You have a little whiplash here, summit whiplash, on, off, back on.
It's
in
been
2
chaos,
weeks, not
more
at all.
chaos.
You realize like this when your relationship starts souring, but you want to be the one to break up first, so you cut it off. But you're kind of like, maybe we can leave it open-ended. That's what this feels like.
There goes that Nobel Peace Prize. He was. There you go. There you go.
There's the media having a little fun with President Trump's decision to call off the summit with Kim Jong-un. While everyone should want peace, is the media seeming to be rooting for failure with North Korea? Here to debate, Democratic strategist and former Missouri State Representative Dan Calloway, and Republican strategist Kimberly Klacik. Good morning to both of you. Thank you for being with us. Kimberly, I'm going to start with you on that point. When we talk about world peace, isn't that a time when we say, let's put Republican, Democrat aside and let's be American? The one time we can actually all be Americans and hope for success here.
Absolutely. You should put people before party at all times. I've come to the realization that Kim Jong-un has what I call a celebrity crush or a fascination with our president, similar to what he has with Dennis Rodman. And I think the president is well aware of that. For Kim Jong-un to come out and say, hey, I'm willing to meet with our president at his convenience, tells me that Donald Trump has complete control of the situation. The left is desperate at this point, right? So if he doesn't make the deal, they can say, I told you so, and continue to throw insults at Republicans until the November election. But if he does make this deal, and he will, they will have to not only eat crow, but then they have to then admit that he is good for this country and also for the entire world.
Yeah.
For Representative of Utah, Mia Love, to be front and center at that press conference in regards to the cancellation spoke volumes to me. She has never really aligned herself with President Trump, and she even took a step backwards when he allegedly made those comments about Haiti being a not so desirable place. And so here she is front and center. So that tells me that she and the GOP are down with this decision, and I also support it.
Don, why does it seem like it's fun for members of the media and Democrats when something fails? And by the way, this summit could still happen. The president said he still wants it to go forward. We'll see how it plays out. But why does it seem like it is something to celebrate as something bad happens? Because that's not just bad for us, that's bad for the world, right?
Of course it's bad for the world, but I disagree with your premise, Abby. It doesn't seem that way to me. Let's do some level setting here. The media are normal people with families, and this is not some episode of real dictators of the Far East. This is nuclear diplomacy in a very, very specific context that could destabilize the whole world. I think you started this segment correctly by asserting that nobody wants that, not the media, not Democrats, nor anybody else. Now, what stands in contrast to that idea is pointing out this administration's very distinct missteps and ineptitude thus far in negotiating and in discussing with North Korea. Did you read that letter? Now, my 9-year-old could have done that. It was actually quite embarrassing as an American document coming from the office of the White House. If you consider on again, off again, litigating this in the media, this is not professional diplomacy, but it's kind of stereotypical
but there you go,
of this
sort of
administration
contradicting
thus far.
yourself. There you
no,
go, kind
not
of.
at all,
No, because
Abby,
you started out your statements by saying that we should all be supportive of success for what's going on with North Korea, and that people aren't laughing it off and people aren't making fun of the administration. But that's exactly what you're doing.
But no, I'm not. But to be supportive of success, to see success is to not want nuclear conflict or nuclear tensions to rise. That is not in contrast to pointing out that this is not the way to achieve that. This letter, this administration thus far in pursuing these diplomatic talks in a very particular and very dangerous nuclear context is not the road to success. In fact, it's been quite embarrassing. And the media, nor Democrats, nor anybody else is outside of the norms for pointing that out. And frankly, to suggest that the media wants failure here, that we want nuclear destabilization, is not the realm of thinking adults.
Kimberly, last word here.
Yeah, I don't think it's right to mock the letter. I mean, because the president used plain language, that's what Americans love. That's why he was voted in. South Korea and China also want this deal to happen. So for us to say, okay, well, say the left was saying that he was offended when he called Korean leader Rocket Man. He wasn't. They were wrong. The left is wrong and proven wrong time and time again. They're going to be wrong when he makes this deal happen.
All right. We are going to leave it right there. Don, Kimberly, it is early and does not mean we cannot be fired up about this. Great to have you on this morning. It's good debate.
Thanks. Good.
All right. Coming up on the show, many fans love the NFL's new anthem policy, but Black Lives Matter calls it, quote, disheartening and compares the league to slavery. Is that going too far? We are going to debate. That's next. Plus, is Vladimir Putin ready to ride off into the sunset? What he just revealed about his political future? Something you don't want to miss. That's coming up on the show as well. Stick with us.
Welcome back. We've got some quick headlines for you here from the middle of the stairs. Nebraska state troopers bust enough fentanyl off the streets to kill 26 million people. Authorities seizing 118 pounds of the deadly opioid during a routine traffic stop. It's the state's largest bust. The drug's street value, more than $20 million. Of course, the driver and the passenger were arrested. And the second story, you can now legally smoke medical marijuana in Florida. The judge ruling the ban unconstitutional. It applies to patients who have a prescription. Voters legalized medical marijuana in 2016. The state's Department of Health is now planning to appeal the ruling. Griff, down to you.
Thanks. Black Lives Matter has some harsh words for the NFL over their new policy on kneeling during the national anthem. The New York BLM president saying to Newsweek, the fact that the NFL owners did not seek a diplomatic solution to this problem is very disheartening. Black men work on their fields and they have no sympathy for their suffering. Similar to slavery, the NFL's actions today force their players to abide by their rules or face harsh consequences. So is the new policy as disheartening as they say it is? Here to debate it, CEO of the Black Sphere and Fox News contributor Kevin Jackson, and professor at the University of Maryland, Jason Nichols. Good morning to you, gentlemen. Kevin, let me start with you. What do you make of this?
Well, I think that companies should be able to do whatever they want. And the idea that these guys want to complain about it, they choose a different career. Look, many people go to work every single day and they just do their jobs. And the NFL players have decided that they want to make the NFL their playground for pet projects. So what if the white guys decide they want to protest the injustice in the NFL, that white people are not necessarily represented by the percentage of white people in America, or Hispanics, or maybe some brother decides he wants to protest because his sister can't play in the NFL because she's not getting gender equality. When did business become the playground for people to decide they're going to air their grievances? It doesn't happen anywhere else in the country. How many other people are we talking about, Griff, where Black Lives Matter has been protested, say at a Kroger or a Target or IBM? It just doesn't happen.
Professor Nichols, I see you smiling. What do you make of this?
Well, first of all, I think that, first of all, we need to frame the actual debate. I think, number one, people aren't protesting the police. They're protesting police brutality. And when we conflate the two, we're actually doing a disservice to a lot of hardworking men and women in uniform. Now, what I would say to what Kevin just said is the idea that you shouldn't be concerned with your laborers. I think any corporation should be concerned with the labor and with what people are saying and what people need. And there's, when we're talking about things that are fundamentally American, I think First Amendment protest is fundamentally American, as we're about to.
Jason, let me just jump in here real quick. Let me jump in here real quick, because are Americans also paying to watch protests, though? That's the problem. The NFL down 9% in revenue, and now this has been brought.
Here's the issue, Griff. I think one of the things that needs to happen, or needed to happen, is that the NFL should have sought some counsel from players. They made a unilateral decision without considering the people that actually work for them. And I think corporations in good faith should actually have a dialogue with the people that work for them. And
this corporation is losing money.
We're talking about a corporation that actually involves people who put their lives on the line. Now, the NFL has done a poor job on so many different issues. You know, when we're talking about players' health, they've done a poor job.
You're demagoguing, and you're getting completely off track.
Listen, speaking of getting off track, Kevin, let me quickly jump in here. Hold on, Jason. Let me jump in here because I want to add one more thing to it, and that is Steve Kerr, the head of the Golden State Warriors, right, Coach, weighing in on all of this, accusing the NFL of fake patriotism. Listen to this side. I want you to get your reaction. Take a look.
They're just playing to their fan base, and they're just, basically trying to use the anthem as fake patriotism, nationalism, scaring people. It's idiotic, but that's how the NFL has handled their business.
So, Kevin, it's just fake patriotism.
And it's idiotic, right? Because we, as Americans, believe in our country, believe that we are the greatest country in the world, et cetera. Fake patriotism. That is the most stupid comment Steve Kerr's probably ever made in his life. And the idea of it, I believe, comes from the idea that his team, his players, are the type of people, and I believe Stephen Curry didn't want to see the president, didn't want to go to the White House. This is job security for Steve Kerr more than anything. That is the idea that Americans are watching the sport of football so they can watch these types of protests is patently ridiculous.
Jason, we're almost completely out of time. I got to give you a few seconds to respond.
Well, the one thing that I'll say is, number one, Steve Kerr's job is not in jeopardy at all.
Sure it is.
Statistically, he's one of the greatest coaches in the history of the NFL, NBA, along with Greg Popovich. I think fundamentally American is protest. Fundamentally un-American is police brutality. So I think one of the things that we need to actually focus on is what's American and what's not American.
All right. Well, Jason Nichols, Kevin Jackson, thank you guys. I'll tell you what is American is Memorial Day weekend, and we are going to remember the patriots that paid the ultimate sacrifice for our freedom. Thanks, guys, for joining us. Have a great weekend.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Is Joe Biden running for president? It sure sounded like it when he said this.
This is not your father's Republican Party that is hurting us with this phony populism and this fake nationalism.
His new shot at President Trump and the GOP next. Plus, it's a barbecue bash on the plaza all morning long. Look at that. I can smell it. We got brisket, we got ribs, and Pete can't wait to dig in. Look at that.
Famous trumpet man from out Chicago way. He had a boogie style that no one else could play. Was a top man at his craft, but then his number came up and he was gone with the draft. He's in the army now, a blowing reveille. He's the boogie woogie bugle boy of Company B. They made him blow a bugle for his Uncle Sam. It really brought him down because he could not jam. The captain seemed to understand, because the next day the cap went out and dropped to the band. And now the company jumps when he plays reveille. He's the boogie woogie bugle boy of Company B.
And that is your shot of the morning. That is the American Bombshells singing trio performing Boogie Woogie Bugle Boy for this upcoming Memorial Day weekend.
How great are they? I love this era of music. It's like such a time in our country's history where you are so proud to be American.
Yeah, and I love this era, a time of year. It's like about to be Memorial Day weekend. We will memorialize, we will remember all the fallen, but we're kicking off the summer. We've got barbecue,
the grill
we've got
out,
bombshells.
Pools are open.
Yes.
So true. And finally the sun's out.
And barbecue.
Fantastic.
And barbecue.
And,
all right.
And back.
Yeah, well, you guys are going to go out there now. I'm going to bring you some headlines that are coming into our newsroom this morning. Starting with this, a hit and run suspect facing attempted murder charges after barreling onto a sidewalk, crashing into 3 different women. Oregon police arresting Greg Phillip Porter after someone spotted his damaged SUV. Witnesses say that the 61-year-old sped down the walkway near Portland State University. 3 victims were then rushed to the hospital with serious injuries. Authorities are now looking for the motive. And punches flying literally in midair. A flight attendant refuses to serve a drunk passenger more booze, forcing him to become belligerent. Watch this.
I'm walking. Yes, I'm your bartender. I'm not bringing you any more beers. We'll be there in an hour.
The man's rampage lasting for more than an hour on the American Airlines flight to Miami from the Virgin Islands. Police handing him over to the FBI once that plane landed. Also this morning, Joe Biden bashing the president yet again. The former VP telling New York Democrats that under President Trump, the GOP is abandoning American values. Here he is.
This is not your father's Republican Party. They're not who America is. That is hurting us with this phony populism and this fake nationalism.
Ooh, his comments made during a speech endorsing New York Governor Andrew Cuomo, who's preparing, of course, to run for his 3rd term here in New York. And it is a dream come true for this 91-year-old World War II veteran Staff Sergeant Talma Salder, receiving his high school diploma 7 decades later.
If you want to go on to college, you got to have a diploma. It's a big world out there. Get your share.
Sadler dropped out at the age of 16 to join the Army thanks to Oklahoma's veteran high school diploma program, though. Anyone who left high school to serve in the war gets a chance to ultimately earn their diploma. I just love those stories. All right, I'm here alone, so I got to toss it outside to Rick for the weather. And Rick, it is hot today. It is beautiful. The sun is out finally.
Summer is here for a lot of people. In fact, we're really baking all across the central part of the country, off towards the east, and big tropical troubles to worry about. Take a look at the weather maps, show you what's going on. Here you go. This is a subtropical storm. Alberto, basically just think of it as a tropical storm. You can see where the center of it, where that little icon is rotating, all the action is off towards the east side of that. So we already have some rain showers across parts of South Florida this morning. We're going to continue to see that throughout the day today, and this is kind of how that system plays out over the next say 2 days or so. And by the time we get towards Monday, it's going to be kind of stalled out there across parts of the Central Gulf. Because of this slow mover, get ready for kind of a washout all weekend long across much of the southeast. Not good news if you're planning your barbecues, unfortunately, and times out at the beach. It's going to be a bit of a rough one. All right, well, it is summer, and all across the country, Americans are firing up their grill for Memorial Day weekend finally. So we're having our own barbecue right here on the plaza. First up is Chef Adam Damaris, joins us from Bet Sal. Adam, welcome back.
Nice, thanks to be here.
First of all, I will say you guys are right by my apartment, which is dangerous because this stuff is amazing. What makes your barbecue so famous? I mean, people know about your barbecue
all
now
over
all
the
over
world.
the place. Yeah.
I think just the product we use. We use really, really good meat. We take a lot of time to source everything.
And so you look at that right there and you think, oh, this is like a big charcoal briquette.
Yeah.
But what do you do with that right there?
We smoke it for around 12 to 14 hours.
And you have a smoker like outside?
We have a big smoker inside.
Inside?
Inside.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you can do that? You can, I guess if you have the space, you could have a smoker inside?
Yeah, you can do that inside.
Okay. And then you smoke it for 12 hours?
Yeah, and then you get to break it open.
Oh, they're missing the mat. They're missing the money shot right here. They go, all right, bring that money shot right back here. Break that open. Break that open.
Then you get to do this.
All right. This is it. The beauty of this is once this is done, I got to do this. Bet Sal in Brooklyn is such an amazing place.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here.
Yeah.
I've got the pre-meat sweats. Pete and Griff, send it over to you guys.
Rick, I've had that before. I can attest. It's fantastic. So that's Brooklyn Barbecue, but we're here now with Chef Judd Frua. He joins us all the way from the restaurants The Ranch and Haywire in Texas. So that's right. They're claiming Brooklyn's got the barbecue.
Yeah.
You're doing it to Texas.
Talk about money shot. Come over here and look at what Judd's got on this grill.
The guys, everything in Texas is bigger, and the difference between Brooklyn and Texas and everything else is we like to slow things down a little bit. This is all about slow cooking, taking our time, enjoying it while we're doing it. We have the cowboy ribeye. Everybody loves a bone-in ribeye. That's a great barbecue piece. We do a garlic stuffed brisket, and you're eating that right now.
Yeah.
A little wild boar with Monterey Jack and cheddar jalapeno sausage, and baby back ribs as well.
Can we cut? Which one of those can we cut up?
Oh, let's cut.
Oh, there we go.
Now,
Judd
is a kid from Memphis. What's better, Texas barbecue or Memphis barbecue?
Texas, I think it's
just gonna get that.
Memphis
Maybe
is
get
great,
that.
but Texas is a
Don't
little sweeter. And again, we just take our time. Memphis guys are a little.
What are the restaurants again?
So the Ranch at Las Colinas and Haywire, they're both big Texas-themed restaurants.
Wow. Wow.
Isn't that good? And that is our tomahawk. Tomahawk is a nice 32-ounce steak that we do on the bone and slow cook it.
That's amazing. Abby, you are missing the best barbecue I've ever had in my life.
It's fantastic.
There's going to be none left with Pete out there. Save some for the rest of us.
So good.
Thanks, guys. All right, coming up, Newt Gingrich says the left should be concerned about the midterms.
If I were a Democrat and I looked at that poll today from Reuters, I'd begin to panic.
Wow, is Newt Gingrich right? We're going to take a look at some of those numbers coming up next. Plus, Mike Huckabee, Mark Short, Dan Bongino, and Sean Spicer. That is just a few of the names coming on the show this morning. We've got 3 more big hours to go on this Fox and Friends Saturday morning. Back after this.
God bless America, my home sweet home. God bless America, my home sweet home.
Welcome back. Well, a new Reuters poll showing that if the congressional elections were held today, Republicans would hold a slim lead. Look at those numbers. It's a big blow to Democrats because the numbers were a bit different back in March. As you can see, when the Democrats had a nearly 12-point lead, they're now behind by 1 on the generic ballot. Well, former Speaker and Fox News contributor Newt Gingrich gave his thoughts on the new polling. Listen.
If I were a Democrat and I looked at that poll today from Reuters,
that's 6
where the
point
Republicans
swing.
are up 1, where they used to be down 10 or 11.
15 at one time.
I'd begin to panic because if the Republicans are anywhere close to even on the generic, they could conceivably gain seats.
So what does our next guest think? He knows a little bit about polling. Tom Bevan from Real Clear Politics joins me now. Tom, good morning. Thanks for being here. So just that number itself, that kind of change, what do you credit it to?
Well, it's a variety of factors. I mean, it's certainly I think the economy, but more importantly, Trump's job approval. Over that same period of time, if you look back to mid-December, he was at his lowest point in our Real Clear Politics average, 37%. As of today, he's at 44%. So the president's added 7 percentage points in his job approval rating. And as he's risen, the generic ballot numbers for Republicans have risen as well. And that lead of the Democrats has shrunk down. I mean, you take the Reuters poll, but CNN had it at 3 points. Rasmussen has the Democratic lead at 1 point. So in our Real Clear Politics average, as of today, the Democrats' lead is at 4 points, and that's down from about 12 or 13 in mid-December.
Now, this all matters because of the balance of the House of Representatives. These numbers improving for Republicans, improving for the president. But are they good enough to prevent a Speaker Nancy Pelosi?
Well, I mean, most pundits, most observers think that Democrats have to be in the 5 to 7% range in a lead in the generic ballot to be close to netting the 24 seats or so that they need to win control. Just as a point of reference, in 2006, Democrats were up 8 points, 7.9%. in the final popular vote total in the House, and they netted 30 seats. So right now, that 4%, they probably would fall a little bit short. And if it narrows any more than that, then Republicans may very well hold on to the House in November.
Tom, how much of this is a product of the fact that the so-called Russian collusion narrative has not developed, yet the Democrats and the resistance and the media have been invested in it wall to wall? If that's not working, is that hurting the way people are perceiving him?
That's a great question. It's hard to know exactly, but we have seen. I graphed President Trump's job approval recently on Twitter against Michael Avenatti's 174 cable news appearances over the last 10-week period. And what you saw was that the president's job approval actually increased over that time. So there's definitely there's a factor there where voters are tuning that stuff out to a certain degree. And things like the economy, foreign policy, those sorts of things, I think, are taking primacy. And that's why we're seeing the president's numbers go up.
Yeah, and the president has the ability to speak straight to the people via his Twitter feed, whether the left likes it or not. Tom Bevan of Real Clear Politics, thanks for your time on this Saturday morning. Appreciate
it. Thanks, Pete.
All right, good stuff. Well, President Obama says there weren't any scandals during his administration. Really? Well, Mike Huckabee here to react to that claim next hour. Plus, he could be the next big thing in NASCAR. You'll meet the 14-year-old prodigy taking the racing world by storm, coming up next.
I'm back on the road again. This time I'll leave you now. And maybe I'll see you next time.
Joey Logano, Denny Hamlin, Kurt and Kyle Busch, and Daytona 500 winner Austin Dillon. There are some of today's biggest stars of NASCAR.
And hot on their heels is 14-year-old Giovanni Bramante. Yep, you heard that right. He's not even old enough to drive yet. He's only 14. Well, the racing prodigy from Long Island, New York, joins us now to share his amazing story. So tell us your story. When was the first time you got into a car and realized this is what I want to do with my life?
I started at Nassau Coliseum in a little go-kart. And as soon as I got behind that wheel of that go-kart, I just knew I wanted to do this for my lifetime.
When I was 14, I would have loved to have convinced my parents to let me race a NASCAR. How did your parents allow you to do this?
Well, my grandpa builds hot rods and all these race cars and stuff, and he tuned for very famous people in NASCAR. So it's really been in my blood. My family just allowed me to do it, and I just can't thank them enough because this is where my heart is.
What do some of the big-time racers say to you when they see you on the track, 14 years old, as good as you are, the next sensation, as many people describe you? What do they say to you?
They're just really surprised because I really shouldn't be in these cars. But I have the talent, and you really have to respect the veterans because once you gain their respect, they'll race you clean, and you'll do a lot better and have really good racing.
How fast does this go?
130 to 150 miles an hour.
Wow. What's it like being behind the wheel here? Like, do you have so much adrenaline going through you when you're driving?
Yeah, it's like you get to the corner and you just feel all those G-forces being on you, and it's just that feeling that you can't get out of anything else.
What is your goal in life? What do you want to do? I mean, is it to win it all?
Yeah, my goal is to be in the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series. just to be up there with those big guys. I really have my heart in this, and I've gave it all I got. And if I get out of this, I gave it all I got, and that's really all that matters.
Well, finding your passion at 14, that's pretty incredible.
Yeah.
I'm going to think about your mom. I know it's probably, she's so proud, but also nervous at the same time. She's over here on the plaza.
Yes,
so
she is.
you raised an amazing son, and it's great to have you with us today. Good luck to all of you, Giovanni.
Giovanni Bramante with Anthony Campy Racing. He's going to be a big star. Keep your eyes on this young gentleman. Thank you, Giovanni.
Thank you.
All right, coming up next hour, Mike Huckabee, Mark Short, Dan Bongino, and Sean Spicer all live right here.
And that's just some of it. Plus, listen to this. Leave the hot dogs and hamburgers at home. The Washington Post, they want your next cookout to have a carrot as your hot dog. I kid you not. That is coming up on the show. What do you think about that? Friends at FoxNews.com.
Sounds delicious.
I'm gonna give her something like she never had before.